Okay, students, this is the first chapter of your book, Two Gentlemen of Verona by A.J. Cronin. This is the author's first-hand encounter with two boys in the town of Verona. He calls them gentlemen. Here you can see he says two gentlemen of Verona. These are those two boys. Now why does he call them gentlemen? Because of their qualities. They have qualities which reflect that they are gentlemen. Let us go ahead. I'll tell you about the author A.J. Cronin. His name was Archibald Joseph Cronin. He was a Scottish novelist and physician. Here you can see this is the world map, and this area which is colored in red, this is Scotland. So this author A.J. Cronin belonged to Scotland. He was a novelist and a physician. He practiced medicine in Wales and in London. Cronin gave up practicing medicine and took to writing as a career. He wrote a number of novels and short stories, and among his best known novels are the books The Citadel, The Key of the Kingdom, and The Spanish Gardener. Some of his novels have also been made into successful films. This is the chapter. I'll read it out to you, and as I go through it, I'll discuss it also. As we drove through the foothills of the Alps, two small boys stopped us on the outskirts of Verona. Now over here, Alps is a mountain range in Europe. It passes through 8 countries. They are Austria, France, Germany, Italy, Liechtenstein, Monaco, Slovenia and Switzerland. This is the map, and this red colored line is the Alp mountain range. This area is Italy. So the author is saying as we drove through the foothills of the Alps. So perhaps they were driving somewhere over here. He says two small boys stopped us on the outskirts of Verona. Verona is a city in Italy. They were on the outskirts of Verona. Here you can see this is the map of Italy, and this red colored area is the town of Verona. So the author and his companion, they were somewhere on the outskirts of Verona. Students, Romeo and Juliet, these are the two characters from the play written by Shakespeare, and they are believed to have lived in the town of Verona. Let us go ahead. They were selling wild strawberries. Don't buy, warned Luigi, our cautious driver. You will get fruit much better in Verona. Besides, these boys. He shrugged his shoulders to convey his disapproval of their shabby appearance. Now here, the driver disapproved of the boys because they were dressed in a very poor and bad condition. Here you can see they are wearing dirty and old clothes, and they are not neat and tidy. Shabby means in poor condition through long use or lack of care. So the driver found these boys to be shabby in appearance, and so he disapproved of them. One boy had on a warm jersey and cut-off khaki pants. The other a shortened army tunic gathered in loose folds about his skinny frame. Skinny means very thin. Yet, gazing at the two little figures with their brown skins, tangled hair and dark, earnest eyes. Earnest means serious and sincere. So this was the expression in their eyes. We felt ourselves strangely attracted. My companion spoke to the boys, discovered that they were brothers. Nicola the elder was 13. Jacopo, who barely came up to the door handle of the car, was nearly 12. We bought their biggest basket, then set off towards the town. Here the author is saying that the boys had dark, earnest eyes. So this expression of seriousness in their eyes attracted the narrator and his companion towards the boys. Let us go ahead. Next morning, coming out of our hotel, we saw our friends bent over shoe-shine boxes beside the fountain in the public square, doing a brisk business. So public square is basically the central place of the town, and over there they were sitting beside this fountain which was there in the center of the public square, and they were shining shoes in order to earn money. Here the author says they were doing brisk business, which means they were earning money very fast. They were working quickly. We watched for a few moments, then as trade slackened, we went over. They greeted us with friendly faces. Slacken means that as their work slowed down, so the author and his companion went over to the boys. The boys greeted them with friendly faces. They were friendly because they recognized them as they had met them the day before. I thought you picked fruit for a living, I said. We do many things, sir, Nicola answered seriously. He glanced at us hopefully. Often we show visitors through the town to Juliet's tomb and other places of interest. Juliet's tomb is the place where Juliet, who was the woman loved by Romeo, she was buried. Romeo and Juliet is a play which was written by Shakespeare. Here you can see this is the Juliet's tomb, which is a place of tourist attraction, and the boys say that they often take tourists to such places of interest. Let us proceed. All right, I smiled. You take us along. As we made the rounds, my interest was again provoked by their remarkable demeanor. Demeanor means their appearance and behavior. So there was something attractive in them. That is why the narrator was once again provoked. Means he was once again aroused. He was attracted by their behavior. He says, they were childish enough and in many ways quite artless. Artless means they were innocent, natural and simple. Jacopo was lively as a squirrel. So here the author is comparing Jacopo. He was saying he was lively as a squirrel. Nicola's smile was steady and engaging. So here you can see that the narrator is drawing a contrast between the two brothers, Nicola and Jacopo. He says that Jacopo, who was a younger brother, was lively and quite childish. Whereas on the other hand, Nicola, who was the elder one, was maturer and his eyes wore an expression of seriousness. Further, the narrator says, yet in both these boyish faces, there was a seriousness which was far beyond their years. So this term, far beyond their years, means that although the two boys were childish, yet there was an expression of seriousness in their eyes. And this expression of seriousness was much beyond their age of 12 and 13. This showed that they had faced the harshness of life at a very early age. They had such experiences in life which a person usually has at a very later stage in life. And as these boys had faced all those things at such an early age, that is why there was an expression of seriousness in their eyes which was far beyond what children of their age usually have. Further, if we wanted a pack of American cigarettes or seats for the opera or the name of a good restaurant, Nicola and Jacopo could be relied upon to satisfy our needs. What struck one most was their willingness to work. During these summer days, under the hot sun, they shined shoes, sold fruit, hawked newspapers, conducted tourists round the town, and ran errands. Here, hawked means to carry about an offer for sale. You can see in this image also, this person on the cycle, he is carrying this eatables on his rickshaw and he is a hawker. One night, we came upon them in the windy and deserted square, resting on the stone pavement beneath the lights. Deserted means which is empty of people. Nicola sat upright, tired. A bundle of unsold newspapers lay at his feet. Jacopo, his head resting upon his brother's shoulder, was asleep. It was nearly midnight. Why are you out so late, Nicola? So here the author is asking Nicola that why are they out and sitting at this place at such an hour? Nicola replies, waiting for the last bus from Padua. We shall sell all our papers when it comes in. Must you work so hard? You both look rather tired. We are not complaining, sir. But next morning, when I went over to the fountain to have my shoes shined, I said, Nicola, the way you and Jacopo work, you must earn quite a bit. You spend nothing on clothes. You eat little enough. When I see you have a meal, it's usually black bread and figs. Figs is a fruit. Here you can see these are figs. Tell me, what do you do with your money? So now the narrator is talking to Nicola. He is saying that you work so hard and you earn good money, but you do not spend enough. You usually just eat a simple meal of black bread and figs. So what do you do with the money that you earn? He colored deeply under his sunburn, then grew pale. So the narrator observed that upon hearing his question, Nicola at once became cheerful and excited. He blushed. The pink color on his face was so prominent that it was even visible through his dark, sunburnt skin. He says he colored deeply under his sunburn. Then he says, then grew pale. This means that just then, just when he had blushed, just then, after a few seconds, he had an afterthought. This afterthought aroused emotions in Nicola. Now, what was this afterthought? He was reminded of his ailing sister. They were collecting all this money for her treatment, and when he recollected about her that she was suffering so much, his face became sad and it turned pale, dull and colorless. Then the narrator says he looked to the ground. So he was not able to face the narrator. The narrator says you must be saving up to emigrate to America. Emigrate means to leave your own country in order to settle permanently in another country. I suggested. He looked at me sideways, spoke with an effort. Now why is he trying to speak with an effort? Because this topic arouses a lot of emotions in him and he is not able to talk comfortably. We should greatly like to go to the States, but here at present we have other plans. This is what Nicola replies to the narrator. The narrator asks, what plans? So Nicola smiled uncomfortably. Just plans, sir, he answered in a low voice. So why Nicola is uncomfortable and he is speaking in a low voice? because he is not interested in continuing the conversation. He just says just plans because he is reluctant in sharing his problems as he does not want sympathy and help from anyone. Well, I said, we are leaving on Monday. Is there anything I can do for you before we go? Nicola shook his head, but suddenly Jacopo said, Sir, he burst out. So here the author is saying that there is a contrast between the behavior of both the brothers. While Nicola is reluctant, he refuses promptly to the help offered by the narrator, but his younger brother Jacopo, he speaks up. He suddenly bursts out, which shows that he is immature and childish, whereas Nicola, the elder brother, is serious and very mature. Every Sunday, we make a visit to the country, to Paletta, 30 kilometers from here. Usually, we hire bicycles. But tomorrow, since you are so kind, you might send us in your car. I had already told Luigi he might have the Sunday off. So the narrator has given an off, a leave to his driver. However, I answered, I'll drive you out myself. There was a pause. Nicola was glaring at his young brother in vexation. Vexation means that the state of being annoyed. So Nicola was very angry at Jacopo. He says, we could not think of troubling you, sir. The narrator says it won't be any trouble. So how did Nicola react? He bit his lip. Then, in a rather put-out tone, he said, very well. So this shows that Nicola was not comfortable with this plan, as he did not like taking help and sympathy from others. The following afternoon, we drove to the tiny village set high upon the hillside. I imagined that our destination would be some humble dwellings. Humble dwellings means a simple space for living, something like this, small hutments. But, directed by Jacopo, we drew up at a large red-roofed villa. This is a large red-roofed villa surrounded by a high stone wall. I could scarcely believe my eyes, and before I could recover breath, my two passengers had leaped from the car. So by the time the narrator had recovered from his state of astonishment, the boys had jumped out of the car. We shall not be long, sir. Perhaps only an hour. Maybe you would like to go to the cafe in the village for a drink. They disappeared beyond the corner of the wall. After a few minutes, I followed. I found a grilled side entrance and determinedly rang the bell. Grilled side entrance is an entrance which has fence of metal bars. It could be something like this. A pleasant-looking woman with steel-rimmed spectacles appeared. I blinked as I saw that she was dressed in the white uniform of a trained nurse. Now, steel-rimmed. Rimmed means the upper or outer edge of an object, especially when it is curved or circular. So, the spectacles were this circular kind in shape and they were made of steel. So, that is why it is called steel-rimmed. So now when the narrator rings the bell at this villa, the bell is answered by a nurse. I just brought two small boys here. The nurse says, ah, yes. Her face lit up. She opened the door to admit me. Nicola and Jacopo, I will take you up. She led me through a cool, tiled vestibule. Vestibule is an entrance lobby into the hospital. For hospital the villa had become. So this place was a hospital. At the door of the little cubicle is a small room often large enough for one person only. So at the door of one little cubicle, the nurse paused, put her finger to her lips, and with a smile bade me look through the glass partition. The two boys were seated at the bedside of a girl of about 20, who, propped up on the pillows, wearing a pretty lace jacket, was listening to their chatter, her eyes soft and tender. One could see at a glance her resemblance to her brothers. So this girl was their sister. A vase of wild flowers stood on her table beside a dish of fruit and several books. This girl who was sitting on the bed was well dressed, which is in contrast to the poorly dressed brothers. So the brothers were taking care of this girl. Further, the narrator noticed that there was a vase of wild flowers on the table along with a dish of fruits and several books. "Won't you go in?" the nurse murmured. "Lucia will be pleased to see you." I shook my head and turned away. I felt I could not bear to intrude upon this happy family party. But at the foot of the staircase, I drew up and begged her to tell me all she knew about these boys. Intrude means to enter and disrupt. So the narrator does not want to enter and disrupt the happy family party. Who is the family? The two brothers and their sister who is sitting on the bed. She was eager to do so. They were, she explained, quite alone in the world except for this sister Lucia. So the nurse tells the narrator that the three siblings were the only survivors in their family. They were the two brothers, Nicola and Jacopo, and their sister Lucia. Their father, a widower, a well-known singer, had been killed in the early part of the war. The mother of these three children had died earlier, and their father, who was a singer, had been killed in the early part of the war. Shortly afterward, a bomb had destroyed their home and thrown the three children into the streets. So the war destroyed their home, and all of a sudden their lives changed completely. They had always known a comfortable and cultured life. Lucia had herself been training as a singer, and they had suffered horribly from near starvation and exposure to the cold winter. The nurse tells the narrator that their sister was training to become a singer, but now they did not have even food and shelter to themselves. So this is the contrast of their lives. For months they had barely kept themselves alive in a sort of shelter they built with their own hands amidst the rubble. Rubble is a waste or rough fragments of stone, brick, concrete, etc. as the debris from demolition of the building. So they were living in the debris from the house which had been demolished by the bomb. Then for 3 years the Germans ruled the city. The boys grew to hate the Germans. They hated the Germans because they had they had destroyed their home. When the resistance movement began secretly to form, they were among the first to join. Resistance movement is an organized effort here by the civilians, by the general mass of the people who want to resist the government or any occupying power, any person who has occupied their country and has disrupted their order and stability. When the war was over and we had peace at last, they came back to their beloved sister and they found her suffering from tuberculosis of the spine. She paused, took a quick breath. Did they give up? I do not have to answer that question. They brought her here, persuaded us to take her into the hospital. In the 12 months she has been our patient, She has made good progress. So the nurse says that the brothers' positive approach and determination to get their sister cured has helped the staff to treat her well. There has been a remarkable improvement in her health in the past 12 months. There is every hope that one day she will walk and sing again. Of course, everything is so difficult now. Food is so scarce and dear. We could not keep going unless we charged a fee. But every week, Lucia's brothers have made their payment. She added simply, I don't know what they do. I do not ask. Work is scarce in Verona, but whatever it is, I know they do it well. Scarce means not enough. So the narrator replies, yes, I agreed. They could not do it better. So the narrator agreed to the nurse because he actually knew that the boys worked really hard and now he came to know their purpose also. I waited outside until the boys rejoined me, then drove them back to the city. They sat beside me, not speaking. For my part, I did not say a word. I knew they would prefer to feel that they had safely kept their secret. Their secret was that they had an elder sister, Lucia, who was ailing and undergoing treatment at a hospital. So these two boys did not want that anyone should come to know about this. So the narrator also did not discuss this fact with them in order to safely keep their secret. Yet their devotion had touched me deeply. War had not broken their spirit. The narrator was moved by the devotion which the boys had for their sister. He says that hardships and sadness had not weakened or stopped them. They did not bother about their own needs, but they worked so hard to provide the best for their sister. This showed their selflessness. Their selfless action brought a new nobility to human life, gave promise of a greater hope for human society. So the narrator says that such humble youth gives our society hope for a better tomorrow. He says that in such times of war, weapons and hatred, still such acts of humanity show a hope for a better tomorrow. The first exercise is, what are the qualities of a gentleman? Complete the web chart by listing the qualities of a gentleman. So the qualities of a gentleman are courteous, chivalrous, wise, considerate, understanding, respectful. The next exercise is, does a gentleman have consideration for others and their feelings? The answer is yes. A gentleman has consideration for others and their feelings. A real gentleman is one who is sensitive and thoughtful towards the people around him. Based on your reading of the story, answer the following questions by ticking the correct options. The first one is, the driver did not approve of the narrator buying fruit from the two boys because the options are, the boys were untidy and poorly dressed, the strawberries were not fresh, they were asking for a heavy price, the driver did not approve of small boys who worked. The correct option is the first one. The boys were untidy and poorly dressed. The next one is, the narrator was most impressed by the boys. The options are, desire to earn money, willingness to work, ability to perform many tasks, sense of fun. The correct option is the second one, their willingness to work. The third question is, Nicola was not pleased when Jacopo asked the narrator to drive them to Poletta as he, the options are, did not want a stranger to become involved with their plans, preferred going to Poletta by train so that he could enjoy the scenery, did not want to ask anyone for favors, did not want to take help from someone he did not know well. The correct choice would be C, did not want to ask anyone for favors. The next question is, the narrator did not go inside Lucia's room as the options are, he did not want to intrude into their privacy, he thought that the boys would object, Lucia would not welcome a stranger, the boys would feel he was spying on them. The correct option is the first one, he did not want to intrude into their privacy. The next question is, the boys were the first to join the resistance movement against the Germans because the options are, the Germans had hurt their sister, the Germans ruled the city, the Germans had ruined their family, the Germans had destroyed their home. The correct option is the last one, the Germans had destroyed their home. The author did not speak to the boys on their return journey because the options are, he thought that boys would prefer to keep their secret, he thought the boys were ashamed of their sister's condition, he thought they wouldn't tell him the truth, he thought the boys might ask him for money for their sister. The correct option is the first one, he thought the boys would prefer to keep their secret. What do you understand by the following statements? The first one is, we do many things, sir. Nicola answered seriously. He glanced at us hopefully. This statement means that the boys Nicola and Jacopo did various jobs in order to earn money. Nicola was serious about the work they did, which reflects their willingness to work and gather money. He looked at the narrator hopefully, as he wished that the narrator would also engage them in some work. The next one, he colored deeply under his sunburn, then grew pale. This statement means that upon hearing the narrator's question, Nicola became cheerful and excited. He blushed suddenly. The pink color on his face was so prominent that it was even visible beneath his dark, sunburnt skin. Just then he had an afterthought which aroused emotions in him. He was reminded of his ailing sister. They were collecting money for her treatment. This thought of his sister's ailment made him sad and his face turned pale, dull and colorless. The next is, he smiled uncomfortably. Just plans, sir, he answered in a low voice. This statement implies that Nicola is uncomfortable while answering personal questions asked by the narrator. He does not want to share his problems with anyone. His reluctance is evident from his short reply and low voice. Neither does he want to disclose his reality to the narrator, nor does he want to lie to him. So, he speaks in a low voice. Yet, in both these boyish faces, there was a seriousness which was far beyond their years. This statement means that although the boys were childish, simple and natural, there was a grave seriousness on their face. This was indicative of the rude and harsh life which they had faced at such an early age. As they had lost their parents and home, and their sister was battling an ailment, the young boys were serious towards life. They had lost their childhood. This expression of seriousness was in contrast to their young age and their otherwise childish behavior. Answer these questions briefly. The first one is, why didn't Luigi the driver approve of the two boys? The answer is, Luigi the driver did not approve of the boys because of their appearance. The boys were untidy and poorly dressed, and so he frowned upon them. Why were the narrator and his companion impressed by the two boys? The answer is, the narrator and his companion were attracted to the boys. The boys had seriousness towards their work. which was unusual for their age. The narrator and his companion were also impressed by their eagerness to work. The boys' childish behavior and their natural reactions drew the narrator close to them. Why was the author surprised to see Nicola and Jacopo working as shoe-shine boys? The answer is, the narrator was surprised to see Nicola and Jacopo working as shoe-shine boys because he thought that they picked fruit for a living. The day before, the narrator had bought strawberries from them. So the next day, he was in for a surprise to see them shining shoes. How were the boys useful to the author? The boys helped the author in many ways. They fetched American cigarettes for him, bought him seats for the opera, and even told him the name of a good restaurant in the town. Why were the boys in the deserted square at night? What character traits do they exhibit? The answer is, the boys were waiting for the last bus from Padua, and so they were in the deserted square at midnight. They wanted to sell all their unsold newspapers to the travelers in the bus. The traits exhibited by the boys are that they were hardworking and had self-determination. The narrator asks the boys, "Must you work so hard? You both look rather tired." The boys reply, "We are not complaining, sir." What do you learn about the boys from their reply? The answer is, the boys' reply shows that they were working hard because of their own will. It was not forced upon them. The boys were brave, courageous, and had a strong willpower to face the challenges which life threw upon them. They did not feel sad and dejected, which indicates that they took every challenge in life confidently. Question number 7 is, when the narrator asks the boys about their plans, they are evasive. Why don't they disclose their problems? The answer is, the boys are evasive and do not disclose their problems to the narrator. They do not want sympathy and help from anyone. The boys are hardworking and determined to fight their own battle of life. They do not want to feel weak and so do not disclose their problems to anyone. Appearances are deceptive. Discuss with reference to the two boys. Appearances are deceptive. This is appropriate for the boys. On the first glance, they look childish, natural, and simple. They were just like any other young boys who seemed to be doing petty jobs in order to earn their livelihood. When the narrator interacts with them, he sees seriousness in their eyes. This serious expression is in contrast to their otherwise childish behavior. No one can make out the true purpose of their sincerity towards their work. It is only when the narrator visits the hospital and meets the nurse that he comes to know the harsh truth of their life. It is then that he discovers their purpose for gathering all the money they can by working continuously. The narrator is surprised by their devotion towards their elder sister, which is unrealistic for such small children of their age. Thus, the above mentioned words are appropriate for them. Do you think the boys looked after Lucia willingly? Give reasons for your answer. Yes, I think the boys looked after Lucia willingly. The amount of hard work they did and the kind of sincerity and determination they had towards their work cannot be forced upon a person. It was their own dedication towards their sister, and so they were willing to look after her. How does the story Two Gentlemen of Verona promise hope for the society? The story Two Gentlemen of Verona promises hope for the society. The boys, Nicola and Jacopo, were devoted and sincere towards the cause of their sister's ailment. They were self-sacrificing despite the harshness faced by them. This approach of theirs towards life shows positivity and nobility. Despite all the negativity in the world, like war, hatred, jealousy, rivalry, and selfishness, the boy's attitude indicated that goodness still persisted in some souls. It indicated that there was a scope for the world to become a better place one day. Match the phrases to their meanings. The phrases are set up, which means to start or establish a company. Breakdown means to lose control of your feelings and start crying. Set off means to start on a journey. Put up with means to tolerate a situation or a person. Put off means to postpone. Put on means to wear. Come in is to enter. Come across means to meet or find by chance. Come up against means to be faced with or opposed by. Turn down means to refuse or reject. Turn in means to inform on or deliver up. Turn to means to try to get help or advice or sympathy from someone. Now use these phrases given in the previous exercise to complete the following sentences. The first sentence is, the landlord was suspicious of the two men staying in the flat, so he called the police and dash them dash. The correct answer is, the landlord was suspicious of the two men staying in his flat, so he called the police and turned them in. Early in the morning, we packed our bags and dash for a hike over the mountain. The correct phrase will be, early in the morning, we packed our bags and set off for a hike over the mountain. Janvi dashed some photographs of her grandfather in the old trunk. Janvi came across some photographs of her grandfather in the old trunk. My father dashed his own business 10 years ago. The correct phrase would be, my father set up his own business 10 years ago. The bank dash Paul's request for a loan. The right phrase would be, the bank turned down Paul's request for a loan. The corporation's decision to reduce the leave of the employees dash a lot of opposition. Here we can say the corporation's decision to reduce the leave of the employees came up against a lot of opposition. Thank you.